My name's Richard Marshall. I'm principal cornet of the Black Dyke Band and I've been for the past 12 years. I started playing the cornet when I was 9 years old in 1985. My father was a flugelhorn player and I started on his flugelhorn for the first week, then moved on to cornet. I was under the tuition of Mr. Ken Johnson, he was a local conductor around the area. A great inspiration on my career. He really taught me how to play the cornet and deal with the instrument. But music's been a massive part of my life, and the actual influence of Black Dyke has been with me since 1985. I used to listen to recordings of Philip McCann, James Shepherd when all my schoolmates were listening to the latest pop music going around, but no, it was Jim Shepherd or Philip McCann for me. I did my apprenticeship, so-called, throughout Yorkshire brass bands, namely the Hatfield Colliery Band, the Asken Colliery Band, Wallace Arnold Rothwell Band, Stocksbridge Engineering Steels Band. Well, probably one of the biggest moves I ever made was when I went to Grimethorpe Colliery in 1996, and I was 10 years as principal there from the age of 19, so that was a great experience. But there was always only one seat I ever wanted. And funny enough, when I started in 1985, my father used to take me to the contest at the Yorkshire area and went to the London finals, and of course which bands won? It was Black Dyke, and I always just wanted to play there. When I started, I think my father, he wanted to take me around to as many band rehearsals as he possibly could, and a lot of people always mentioned Black Dyke, and I kind of listened to as many recordings of Black Dyke as I could, and like I say, the name two people, James Shepherd and Philip McCann, for me were the pin-up cornet players to listen to, and I just used to listen to them all the time. And I think just through the influence of the sound of the band and the sound of the players, I just got such a buzz from doing that, and it was always Black Dyke. I always wanted to play with Black Dyke, and I was never going to stop until I achieved that. I think my very first British Open victory, which I'd never ever won a major competition before I joined Black Dyke, and it was in my first year with the band as well, at the Symphony Hall, the British Open. The test piece was Vienna Nights by Philip Wilby, and we played an absolute storming performance. And so I think the first British Open victory, because for me the British Open is always the contest you want to win. That's one of the big majors, and it was great to achieve that. Numerous other things accompanying James Morrison in a tour in Australia was fantastic. The band do hundreds of concerts as well, up to packed out audiences throughout the world. That's been great. But for me, the highlight was probably my first rehearsal with the band, when I stepped into the band room at Black Dyke, and I sat in the chair and I looked in front of me, and there was the old wooden music stands, and there was the names of Jim Shepherd, Maurice Murphy, Willie Lang, Philip McCann staring at me. That's when I thought, this is it now. The Australia trip in 2009, when we supported James Morrison, the Australian multi-instrumentalist, was fantastic. So it was very memorable. The band go overseas every September to Switzerland, and we play a concert in the KKL in Lucerne, the hall there, and that's to a packed out 2,500, 3,000 people. It's the gala concert of the Swiss Open, and that's always a very memorable concert to do. Nick has been a massive influence on myself, my career as a player, and also as a conductor as well. And he manages the band fantastically well. He manages the players very well. But again, going back a little bit, I was lucky at Grimethorpe. I worked under, probably the most famous of all brass band conductors at Black Dyke was Major Peter Parks. He was my professional conductor at Grimethorpe, so I learnt a lot under the Major as well. A few times we've been lucky to work under Elgar Howarth as well at Black Dyke, which was great. Elgar was great, but for me, Nick at Black Dyke is such an inspirational figure. The running of the band is fantastic, his management of the players is great, and I learn a lot through Nick. I've mentioned two of the great cornet players for me, James Shepherd and Philip McCann. And you look on the euphoniums, then it was John Clough, Sandy Smith, Kevin Crockford on soprano, so many players. But I think now, I've been at Black Dyke now for 12 years, I've had the pleasure of working, with Peter Roberts at the band, David Thornton on euphonium as well, and not forgetting his second in command as well, which was John French. Sandy Smith came back to the band, such an inspirational figure. Joseph Cook on tuba was great, and again we're not forgetting, you know, again ably supporting during the tuba section was Matthew Routley, who's been now with the band for many years and still there. You're not going to hear a better B-flat bass player than Matthew. But I've also worked with some great cornet players as well. You know, down my number 2 for many years was Morven Sinclair. Morven was, you know, a fantastic cornet player. And then we've had the emergence of young players as well, such as Tom Hutchinson, Paul Duffy, to name 2, have gone on to absolute international stardom, them both. So there's lots of influences as players, I think. There's always challenges and difficulties. I'm 40 years old now. I've been happily married for the last 13 years, and I've got 2 beautiful daughters. My wife played with Black Dyke for 4 years as well, so it was great playing in the band with my wife, but we decided to have a family. Now my wife's no longer there, so leaving my family and my children whenever I go to band practice or a concert or abroad with the band is always tough. But that's why I'm at Black Dyke. You know, I cherish the opportunity to do it, and I've got a very understanding wife and family to support me through that. I know the seat that I sit on, that I'm on show every rehearsal, every concert we do, every recording we do, every contest performance we do. So I know that I've got to be 100% in performance mode every time I play. You know, or people will pick up little things, and that's the last thing I want. Unfortunately, we are human beings and not robots. But I think just the importance of being principal cornet with Black Dyke and having the stature of the position, not only as a player, but how you actually handle a position away from the band. When I go away and play with other bands as a soloist, I take the name with Black Dyke with me all the time, and I've got to be truthful that, you know, they do book me for my name, but they also book me for the name of Black Dyke behind me as well. So I've got to take that tradition with me, and I'll do so for as long as it takes. Oh, there's been numerous characters, and we've talked about when we go abroad. There's many characters in the band. I think probably 4 characters spring to mind. Unfortunately, they're not with the band anymore, but in my time, definitely John Doyle on flugel was a massive character. Paul Lovett Cooper on percussion as well. And we had 2 baritone players as well. One was called Gareth Brindle and one was called Gaz Daniels as well. And you know, they finished with the band probably 5 or 6 years ago now. But oh my God, we had some good times with those guys, and the camaraderie in the band was fantastic, as it is now. I look at it in footballing terms. Black Dyke is probably as equal as what Manchester United are. I'm a Nottingham Forest fan. So, but I understand how big Manchester United are globally, and that is what Black Dyke are globally throughout the brass band world. We've just returned from a successful tour of Japan, and we thought we were like being, you know, being hailed as being like Boyzone or Take That. You know, the crowds are going absolutely wild for the band. You know, and just to be part of that was fantastic. You know, people, we're just so fed up of signing autographs and, you know, having selfies and different things, signing T-shirts whilst they're actually on the backs of these people lining up. It was fantastic. So the importance, you know, of the band globally is fantastic, and the appreciation, I think it goes, the appreciation of the people abroad is great, but it just shows that the growing brass band popularity abroad is forever growing all the time. The future brass bands, I think now, it's a young man's game. You know, the bands like Black Dyke are very busy bands. Once you get into it, it's a commitment that you've got to give 100% to, like it has been for many years. There's a lot of travelling involved. Your playing standard has always got to be 100%. As well, I think above all, your attitude's got to be right as well. Because if your attitude's not right, then it's not going to work. You've got to have a good understanding. If you are a family person, so you've got to have a good understanding from your family background, and you've got to have the backing of your family to do it. But definitely, I'd say it's a young man's game. You see a lot more students involved with brass bands these days, because that's why they come to, say, the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester. You know, a lot of the players or students there end up playing with big bands like Black Dyke or Grimethorpe or Brighouse. And so it's definitely a young person's game, I think, more. They've just got to be able to commit to it and enjoy it. Personally, I always want my performance to be ever improving. You know, there's one thing I've never taken for granted since I've been principal cornet of Black Dyke for the last 12 years, that I think that I've reached it now. I'm not going to get any better. That's definitely untrue. You know, I practice every single day. I work very, very hard at my playing. I enjoy the other sides like teaching and conducting as well. I don't do much conducting these days because time doesn't permit, what with my role as principal cornet and obviously my teaching commitments. But definitely as a player, I always want to improve. I always want to push my standard to another level. I was lucky enough last year in 2016 to present the world premiere of the Edward Gregson Cornet Concerto, which in collaboration celebrated my decade with the band. And that was a big test for me. You know, I stood up and did that in the gala concert of the Europeans, and that's probably one of the greatest performances I've personally ever given. But I'm not resting on my laurels. I wanted to push forward, and I still want to keep getting better. With regards to what the future holds, I haven't got a crystal ball. All I can do is just do my job to my best ability. I love my family life. In the future, I would love to conduct a band and be successful with the band as a conductor, but that's not my main aim at the minute. My main aim is to concentrate on my role as principal cornet with Black Dyke and enjoy it. I think for any people wanting to play, I'll say, a cornet and be the best standards you possibly can, first you've got to have the dedication and the commitment to do that. You've got to be able to come home from school or college, and you've got to be able to put the work in, because without any hard work you don't get the rewards. I've always been a firm believer of that little statement. Above all, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. If you can't enjoy it, again, there's no point in doing it. But just practice hard, you know, put the work in, enjoy the moment, seek as much performance opportunity as you can, seek as much help as you can from other players, because, you know, go and see different players to get different inspirations. Go and listen so much. There is so many devices out there these days where you can listen either on CD or iTunes, or, you know, there's different things now. So recordings are very, very vital, I think, and so important to players these days, that they can adapt their own personal kind of inspiration through those recordings, and they make their own personal performances through that. So just enjoy it and grasp every opportunity you can. Being principal cornet of Black Dyke brings with it a lot more things than just playing. I've got to look personally on how I am, you know, away from the seat and everything. I'm just enjoying every single minute with the band. It's a young band, it's a hungry band, and it's going to be a successful band. It always is, Black Dyke. It's under the right leadership, and the backing from the trustees behind it is fantastic. I absolutely adore my family. My wife Rebecca is a cornet player as well. She played with Black Dyke for 4 years. That was great. But we've got two beautiful little daughters, Bella and Esme, who are currently 3 and 5 years old. They show some signs of being potential brass players. So hopefully they'll become good one day, then they'll be able to look after mum and dad.